There's a man I'm sure you've heard of who has spent millions of dollars trying to reverse his biological age. He tracks everything. He optimizes everything. He is one of the most extreme examples of health optimization in the world. And he was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder. And I think that tells us something really important. Welcome to your daily hit of grace and grit, your quick dose of inspiration to kickstart your day. I'm Courtney Townley, and here is today's hit. Bryan Johnson is a tech entrepreneur who sold his company to eBay for $80 million and has since been spending an estimated $2 million a year on a project he calls Blueprint. The goal is to reverse his biological age and essentially defeat the aging process itself. He tracks dozens of biomarkers daily. He follows a precise, calibrated diet. He takes over 100 supplements. He goes to bed at the same time every night, optimizes his sleep architecture, measures his cognitive performance, and submits to a battery of medical tests that most people will never experience in their lifetime. And recently, despite all that, he was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. Now, I want to be fair here. I don't know the specifics of his diagnosis or how he's managing it, and I'm not sharing this to mock him or take satisfaction in someone else's health challenges. I'm sharing it because I think it illustrates something important that we often don't talk about. Optimization has become an obsession, and here's what I believe gets lost in that obsession. Health is not a problem to be solved through enough data and enough precision. The human body is an extraordinarily complex system operating within an extraordinarily complex life. And that life includes stress, relationships, meaning, grief, joy, certainty, uncertainty, loss, love. None of those things can be optimized. And when you try to control your biology to the exclusion of all those other things, something gives. I think the research on psychoneuroimmunology, the field that studies how our thoughts, emotions, and social connections affect immune function, I talk about this in my book, the evidence is pretty clear. Chronic emotional stress, loneliness, lack of purpose, suppressed emotions, all have measurable negative effects on immune health. No supplement stack or sleep protocol fully compensates for those things. So you can do everything right by the metrics and still get sick. He's an example of that. Bryan Johnson is an example of that. Because, as to my point yesterday, I believe it was, health is not binary, right? We talked a lot about the both and in yesterday's episode, and it is not fully controllable. And mistaking optimization for health is a category error. Research in psychoneuroimmunology has established that chronic psychological stress, social isolation, and lack of meaning are all associated with impaired immune function, increased inflammation, and higher susceptibility to autoimmune conditions. Dr. Esther Sternberg's work at the NIH is definitely worth looking into if you're more curious about this. The mind-body connection is not metaphorical. It is physiological, verifiable, and very well documented. I'm not anti-data, okay? I talk a lot about the value of data in all the spaces and places where I teach. I'm not anti-optimization in a broad sense. Tracking your HRV, understanding your body composition, paying attention to your sleep quality, these things have real value. And we've talked about all these things on this show, but they're tools. They are not the destination. They are not the tool, the only thing. And when optimizing the tools becomes obsession, we lose sight of the actual goal, which is a life that's not just long or lean or metabolically efficient, but genuinely worth living, right? It puts meaning in our life. The research on longevity is remarkably consistent about what actually predicts a long and healthy life. Strong social connections, sense of purpose, regular movement, not necessarily intense movement, just consistent movement, adequate sleep, a relationship with food that is nourishing rather than anxious, and the capacity to manage stress without suppressing it or drowning in it. And none of those things require $2 million a year. They all just require honesty, self-awareness, and a willingness to do the unsexy, unglamorous daily work of taking care of yourself. That's the honest to God truth. So stop trying to optimize your way to health and start trying to live your way to it. Your body is not a machine to be hacked. It is a living, responsive, deeply intelligent system that is in constant communication with your mind, with your relationships, with your sense of meaning, and your emotional landscape. Tend to all of those things, not just the measurable things. So, question for you at the close of this: where are you optimizing at the expense of actually living? And what is one thing you could do today that is not measurable, but would generally nourish you? If this reframe on health resonates with you, share it with a woman in your life who might need to hear it. The optimization conversation is everywhere right now, and this perspective, I think, is worth passing along. If this stirred something inside of you, imagine what a whole book of clarity and courage could ignite. The Consistency Code, a midlife woman's guide to deep health and happiness, goes even deeper into the mindset and practices that create real, meaningful change at midlife. Grab your copy today over at theconsistencycode.com and keep the momentum alive.